Our next guest has seen it all from high above Earth, or not even in Earth, outside of this world. And since returning to Earth, he's now authored a #1 bestseller, and now you've got your second book. Chris Hadfield is joining us today, and we're very excited to have you here.
Glad to be with you. Thanks, Kate.
So this is your second book, and it's now a bestseller.
Yeah, it's a #1 selling book in Canada, in fact, yeah.
And explain what is in here to start. I took a glance through it.
Kate, I flew in space 3 times and spent almost half a year orbiting the world. And in that time, I took about 45,000 pictures of the world.
Wow.
And most of them I never really saw. I took the picture. You go across Canada in 10 minutes from coast to coast. So I would take all those pictures, and then I'd download them at the end of the day, and only a few of them I had a real chance to look at. And this past winter, I went through all 45,000 pictures, tried to choose the best few thousand of them, and then from those, pick out the pictures that would tell the story of going around the world once in 90 minutes. If you and I were floating by the window of the spaceship, what would I want to show you? What would I want to show you in that hour and a half? Yeah. And then not just the pictures, though, but what would I say? What is the commentary? What makes those pictures interesting or funny or sad? And that's the purpose of the book. It's my favorite 150 images of our world.
So when you were up in space and you were tweeting out these pictures, or somebody was doing that for you?
I was tweeting pictures.
You were doing it?
Yeah.
Did you know what sort of effect you were having?
Well, sure. I was on Twitter on orbit, so I was watching the responses from people all around the world, and it was really refreshing, really lovely to see that I could have something in front of me that is just spectacular to see, the blues of the Bahamas, or the sun setting across the mountains of Canada, or whatever, the beautiful colors of the outback of Australia. I could see it, write something about it, hit send, and then immediately have the whole world start responding back. And there were 1 million people following by the end of the flight. And it was just such a lovely connection with everybody on Earth. And real motivation to do my best to try and let people see not only what the world looks like in its totality, but how they fit in. And
you also made it very easy to understand, sort of what you were looking at. And
yeah, well, I want, social media is all about a two-way human conversation, talking about what things mean to each other, and it's like going into an art gallery. Pictures are beautiful on their own, but I'm always interested, what did the artist write about this picture? What did it mean to them? I want the human link. And that's the idea of this book, is each picture I wrote what was important, of why I took that picture, or why it made me laugh or despair. And so sort of the best I can do to let people see what it's like to go around the world.
And something I was curious about, does it ever sink in what you saw, or did it take a while for things to sink in, or was it instant? Did you?
No, it's a good question. It seeps into you more and more. Part of it you feel, you see it better the next time, or the third time, or the fifth time. Part of it just kind of slowly shifts your familiarity with the whole planet, your sense of the fact that this is just one ball, and you can go around the whole ball in 92 minutes. And so the lack of barrier between all of us, the commonality of our experience, how we treat each other, how we exist, it all just becomes one long continuum. And it gives you sort of an optimism and a patience and a shared sense of belonging that is inevitable. And if you and I did 100 orbits together, it would slowly shift your perception of the whole world that way.
I completely believe it. Even just looking at these pictures, they really are amazing. What was maybe your favorite? Did you have a favorite spot that you would fly over?
There are parts of the world that are more photogenic. The Bahamas, because the reefs are so big and so shallow, all the beautiful pastel blues, but also the deep part of the ocean comes in, the tongue of the ocean comes in, where it's 4,000 meters deep. And so you get the beautiful, delicate pastel blues, and then this incredibly deep blue, and they're right next to each other, the tongue of the ocean. And so that contrast is just like a huge iridescent butterfly the whole time. Or the Australia, the outback is so huge and flat and dry, and mountains ground into like artist's powder. But really, the world just constantly unveils its beauty. And we went across the solar system. Well, we went from one side of the sun to the other while I was on the spaceship. So the seasons changed, so your perspective on the whole world is shifting. Every orbit is different.
Wow. One thing that I heard you say, and this boggled my mind, so can you tell me, did it boggle yours? You said you were either, the day that you were going into space, all 3 times, you were either going to be in space by that afternoon or dead.
Yeah.
And to me, that boggled my mind.
Well, we don't like to have astronauts who've been boggled. It's not a good way to fly a spaceship.
How did you overcome that thought?
So the real key, of course, is to separate the raw fear that you might have, the mind-boggling part, with the actual danger that you're facing. Because you could just let the fear overwhelm you, just like anything in life, really. You can let the fear, the raw animal fear, overwhelm you, or you can say, wait a minute, what's the real danger that I'm facing? And a danger an hour from now doesn't matter. What's the danger in the next 10 seconds? That's what I'm actually facing, and how can I get myself as ready for that as possible so that I know everything about it and I can avoid anything bad happening to the best of my ability. And then once I made it through that 10 seconds, then what's the next 10 seconds? And that's how we keep from getting terrified by launch. You know, nobody wants a terrified astronaut. And it's really years and years and years of preparation, training, study, simulation, so that the day you get on the launch pad, you know there's risk, but you also know there's great reward. And the view you're going to get when you get to orbit is unprecedented in life.
Well, we could really sit here and I could listen to you all day, but we have to move on now. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks.
You will be signing books at Indigo Books at Signal Hill on Sunday starting at noon.
Sunday starting at noon. Have a chance to meet people and sign the book. And the proceeds for my wife and myself all go to the Canadian Red Cross from this book, because the pictures belong to everybody. But I'm really looking forward to meeting people on Sunday.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
So we're going to take a break, but here's what's happening in and around Calgary. Canadian Cancer Society's Curl for Cancer Bonspiel in Calgary will be held November 15th to 16th, 2014 at the Winter Club. Join us as one of the 16 teams to fundraise and knock out cancer of the house. Visit cancer.ca/curl for more information. We'll be right back.